Looks like it's really close now. Got the wiring to deal with, but just ran it underneath it. Got it pushed against my angle iron. And I've got this this board running the length of the member there, and it looks just about right. Close enough to leave it and start cutting that piece out. This is kind of a safety issue for airbag timing and all that, so it needs to definitely be replaced. Even if you could straighten it out and get everything lined up, it's weakened and it's torn here, buckled inside here. Some of that buckle actually came out when I pulled this, but you got some major damage in the structural member here, so this definitely needs to be replaced. Mostly for safety. I mean, you could get by straightening all this out and making it work, but I wouldn't put anybody in it. Alright, I've started drilling spot welds out. This one right here, I need holes in this piece because it's going to stay. So I drilled all the way through this one because that's only one more piece behind it. This piece will be replaced. That comes in about into here. So I just went ahead and drilled all the way through it with a regular bit. Now I've got a plug weld hole here. And this piece behind it will be solid when I replace it. So I can weld straight through here to that. This one up here, there's actually 3 layers. One of them is part of the radiator support. The upper is, and then the bottom one is this piece in here that I'm going to have to leave. And this piece I'm replacing is in between there. So I just use a spot weld drill, that one, to drill just through this upper piece. And I'm probably going to have to go a little bit deeper to cut this piece off the piece under there, but I'm going to try and see where I am now. I'm not going to go too far. I don't want to drill all the way through. I got to leave the piece behind here so that I can weld through here to get both of these 2 pieces welded to the third one back there. Same thing underneath. That middle piece, I don't know if you can see it, but that piece right there, this is the piece I've got to save that runs behind here. That's the one on the far back. This piece I've got to save, and I'm just going to weld through this piece and through that piece and attach it to the one in the back. So I'm probably going to have to slide the new piece in and use this hole as a guide and drill all the way through the new piece, or at least mark it, drill through it, take it back out and drill through it, put it back in here so I can weld both of these to the back piece. It's a little complicated, but I'll have to figure it out as I go. I'd plan to take this piece right here off to be able to get this in and then put this piece back over it, but it only comes back about that far into this piece. So what I'm going to try to do is try to just take the welds off the front, that spot weld right there, and then this weld, or these 2 here, and then there's I think 1 underneath. So if I can get those 4 welds off and just lift this part of this sheet here up, I think I can get it to slide in underneath, and then I can just overdo it, push it in about 1.5 inches or so. Then I might be able to clear this and push it underneath that. That's the goal for now. And try to get this whole section that I'm replacing, just get this piece like this out of the car and stick it underneath this apron piece and slide it over to prevent having to take this off. If I have to take it off, I will, but the less I can do, the better. I'd rather leave all those factory welds along that rail. I'll try to just put this piece in and slide it over. I've got that much to work with. You can see where if I slide it in, it'll stop right here, which is the same contour. So I should be able to put it in, slide it back that extra inch, and maybe I can clear this because it only overlaps it about that far. And I can just barely slip it in here and then just push it over, and that'll butt it up against the front. That'd be really awesome. That'd save me a ton of time and it'd be a lot better repair that way. I'm going to go through now, and I've got to cut this piece right here, this piece off. I've got to cut the welds along that intersection. I got to cut the channel off. All these spot welds along here, and the ones in here, and then along the front. And that'll have this free, and I can just come in here and cut it off, get it out of the way, and then I can focus on getting this piece out. I finally picked me up one of these 3M belt files. I'm going to run that on this area on the piece that I don't want to keep. That way I don't have to worry about putting a hole in it that I can weld through. This will just sand right through the spot weld, and I can come back after it thins it out. I can just chisel the part off and then grind that flange smooth. I got a few more to do, but after I run around and get all those, I should be able to chisel it off. It's got all the metal real thin there at the weld, so I should be able to chisel it. Alright, I've gone around, and the ones that I've cut, I just ran the seam buster through it and the hammer. Most of them broke right free. I had a couple I had to go from 2 different angles, but they all cut through without having to saw any more on it or grind any more on it. I went up through here, got all these off too. I've just run the file belt on these. There's a little bit of seam sealer right here, one right underneath it. I think there's going to be one, at least, maybe one there, maybe one right under here. I got to cut all the seam sealer off here. I'm going to go through and finish grinding these, and I'll come back and run the seam buster through here. Should come right off. Then I'll come through. I'm not going to worry about trying to cut these. I'm going to come through here and cut this piece off right through here. That way I can just focus on that piece right there and just take this section off with it. Well, I had planned to just cut this piece off, like I was saying, just in here and leave this on it. But this file belt right here, this thing cuts through in about 5 or 10 seconds. And I can just grab it with the pliers and pull it off here. It cuts it down paper thin, it just falls right off. So I went ahead and just cut it at these joints in here. And now I'm going to have to cut out. These are really thick right here. It would make more sense, since I've got to drill this off of this piece. There's this heavy gauge steel here and a heavy piece on the other side, and the thin piece that goes behind this actually comes up in between the two. There's 3 layers there. So what I'm going to do, because I don't have any holes in this new piece, I've either got to drill all the way through that to be able to weld it to the other side over there on the car, or I can drill this out of here all the way through, put a hole in this other piece, and then weld it from the other side onto this. I think that's going to be easier, because if I cut just this piece off to save the back piece and keep it solid, I'll still have to drill holes in this piece to then weld it to the car. So I'm basically drilling this almost all the way through, and then drilling all the way through that piece. But if I drill all the way through this, that'll leave me a hole in this piece in the back for a plug weld, and then I can just grind the back side of this flange here and weld straight to it. The only problem with doing that is I'll only be getting the inside sheet attached to that. So what I may have to do is just go ahead and drill through this so that I can weld the entire thing to that. But I'm just going to look at it again. I think I'll end up having to drill through this so I can get both pieces attached to this, because if I don't weld this piece to this piece, then I've got a super weak joint here. It's like this is not even here. So I'll just have to cut this off and decide what I want to do, but I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. Alright, I went ahead and cut that off with the body saw. So I'm left with that piece there. And I got to get this section out. I got to leave this piece. That's the piece I was telling you that was behind it. It's in pretty good shape. It just needs to be pulled back out. It's just one thickness. It needs to be pulled back out to meet this new piece when it goes in. That'll go in there. And I'll just pull that piece in and clamp it to this after I fix the flanges on it. So basically I'm left with cutting 6 spot welds off around here. There's 2 there, 2 there, 2 there. The spot weld on the end only holds this bracket to this piece, just like these right here. So based on how those are attached, I'll decide what else to do. But I've still got to be able to weld all the way through this and through the thin sheet between all the way to that brace. So once I get this piece off, I'll work on getting this section out of here. I got to cut this off and try to get it out of there. I'm trying to get it free over here first. And now this is already drilled, I can get that free and slide it back maybe and wiggle it out this way. I'll probably have to open this up a little bit and open this piece up a little bit just to get everything in, but I'd really like to leave that piece on there. Alright, I've just about got it all out. I had to drill all the way through this one and the one underneath that I had to take out to get it off of this piece. Same thing underneath here. Get it free. This piece is staying. This is the last piece that's got to come out. It's free up here. I went through this sheet and this one. I had to leave this one. So that's loose. That one right there. I got two spot welds under here I just cut loose. And this one right here, I actually ran the body saw in it. After I cut this section out, I just ran the body saw through here, cut that weld. And now I've got to go in and cut that one. But I don't have much of a reach on that one. What I'm probably going to do, since I'm going to have to clean this hole up anyway and re-weld right there, I think I'm just going to take the file belt and go in at this angle, just straight in on it, and just cut that weld down so that just the very tip of this goes through that hole. And get it thin enough where I can go through here and just chisel it off. And then this whole piece will fall out. I went and cut some more of it off so I could get that body saw in. But I'm just going to shave this one down and go down in the hole a little bit. And this piece will pull out and that'll be completely out. All I've got left is that section right there to get off. And I can start trying to fit the other one in. Okay, I just ran the file belt straight onto it right there. And then chiseled through here and broke it loose. Now this piece is loose. Probably hung on just a little bit of what's left in that hole there, but I'm just going to grab it with some pliers and yank it out. Then I need to come in here, probably clean this up a little bit. It's not really bent all that much, but right here in the front it's kinked and pushed out a little bit, so I'll tap that down and put a dolly behind here and tap this down. Then I need to clean this hole up. I'll just shave all the weld off there with the file belt and come back, and that'll have that ready to weld onto the new piece. Alright, I was able to squeeze this piece in. What I did was I took the front end where it's a little bit extra length here that goes around and is welded into these points here, and I just shaved off about, well, from about here all the way down, I shaved off about 1/8 of an inch or maybe a 1/16 off this piece so that it would slide back here. I've had it bottomed out right up against this piece behind this fender bracket, and that allowed me to just barely slip it in right here and then slide it over until I've got it in the right place, same place it was in originally. I still need to measure and make sure I've got it in the exact place, but just visually matching it up to where it needs to be. I've got 2 steps. There's a step there and a step right there. So I've got those matched up to the pieces behind it and just clamped in place there. Right in here, it looks like it's not quite making contact here, but it's touching here. So I need to pull this piece. I think this part right here got pulled in. I have knocked it out a little bit that direction. I think I need to go a little further. I think it actually bent it along, probably along this line here, where it's got this cutout in it. So I need to take this whole piece and just pull it out a little bit more, and this should come on in and make contact everywhere. And this is how far off I am with this. It's real close up here, but I need to pull this part in to match this. I've got to get this edge right here flush with this edge. It's got to come in all the way in with it like that. But I can pull it in most of the way. I don't want to pull it so hard that I end up pulling this piece in, but I may end up going back with my ram right in here and just pushing this out to meet it, because I don't want to pull this piece in. If I squeeze both, I'm going to pull both closer to each other, but I don't want to move this. So I need to just push this piece out to meet it. I'll be working on that next. Once I got everything in where I know it's going to stay, get all the measurements right, I'll go through and I'll mark this hole here. What I might do, as just an easier way to do it, is take my spot weld drill, run it right back through this hole, because I'm going to have to mark this piece to drill through it, because I've got to weld through this piece, onto that back third sheet back there. So I might just take the spot weld drill, run it back through here, and that'll give me a center point and a little circle. And I can actually drill that out, but I want to drill it slightly smaller than this hole. So when I go in there, I can weld the smaller hole to the piece below it, and then I can weld the step for this from this piece. That's a smaller diameter hole. I can weld that to this in here and then fill it up. Because if the hole in this is bigger, then I'll end up just welding this to the third sheet behind it. I need a smaller hole in this, probably 2/3 the size of this hole. That way I can start in the center, weld the third piece to the second piece, and then weld the top of it, which will weld this to that, if that makes sense. So everywhere I've got triple layer, like right here, I'll have to do that. This one right here, that one you can actually see the new piece I slid in between the two. So what I might do there is just take a scratch tool and mark it, and then just cut a little notch out of it, a little half moon notch, weld that into that, and then fill the hole in to weld the second piece onto this top piece. But all along here, it's just going to be one weld, so one or double layer weld here, so just one solid plug weld, and I think under here also. Sorry about that. Under here too. These over here, I'll have to do something similar. I'm going to have to drill all the way through these two layers so that I can do the same thing over here. I'll probably drill a small hole in this. I don't know that I can punch this with my punch tool. I'll try, but it's awfully thick. And it's actually a pretty strong steel. I've got the body diagram, and it labels the strengths of all these different materials. This I believe was mild steel. So is this. But I want to say this piece was a 580 MPa high strength steel, which is another reason why I didn't want to try to drill it off and have to get it off there and redo it. I don't want to disturb that. That's a safety member. This is sort of a side, small overlap collision member here, and then that transfers all that load into this. So I didn't really want to disturb that if I didn't have to. I think I can get away with it now. I've got this about in the same place it needs to be as original. I just need to work on this right here, and I'll pull it back out after I mark and drill everything, and then I'll start grinding the flanges to where I'm going to do the plug welds. And I'll show you a copy of the Honda body repair news that I just got. I've actually got it right here. This was revised in July of 2017. I don't think it's been revised since. It's the only one I could get access to. But just looking through here at what they've updated, and I think this one right here was still there in last August when they did it again, the last time. Weld-through primer should not be used when doing mag plug welding, mag butt, or MIG brazing. Further study has shown that weld-through primers can negatively affect weld or joint quality. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scrap the weld-through primer probably on everything from now on. Now that I think about it, I can just come back with the epoxy like I've been doing. I can just pour it in the joints, and I'll just let it run through here and do that a couple of times. And then once it stops running out onto the floor, I'll just come back and wipe everything down and paint the outside, come back with cavity wax and just fill everything up. Because it does weld a whole lot better without that stuff. But I'm real close now. I just got to get this rolled back a little bit and then do another test fit and grind the flanges and punch some holes. Alright, here's the body diagram I was telling you about. You got the member that I'm replacing. This is 2-door, this is 4-door. The member that I'm replacing is this blue one right here. Runs up to this apron. And that one right there actually is high strength steel. It's 590. I said 580 I think, but this is 590, the blue. And you got the full radiator core support that runs up to here, this joint. This is all mild steel. This is 270 MPa. The piece I'm replacing and that apron piece here are both high strength steel here and here. This piece is actually mild steel. It's just an extension of the radiator support. This one connects the radiator support to the apron. And I thought I was only going to be able to get this piece. I thought this was actually part of the strut tower, but this came as an assembly. So it makes more sense to section it here since this was buckled in here anyway. If this had not been buckled at this joint, I could have just bought this piece and cut this off of it and left that piece in the car, the original one, which would have been a lot simpler, but with a kink in here, I lost a lot of structural integrity there. So I just want to make sure I get it safe again. So right now I'm going to go take these measurements from fender mount to fender mount, which is, it's hard to see, but that's 62.6 inches across here. And I also need to get some sort of cross measurement. May have to use that one. That one's 62.48, which is 62.5, so I can measure from there back to the, looks like that's the rear fender mount. I can't use this measurement here because my fender mount here is messed up. I know it's bent, so I'm going to take that measurement and actually go this direction with it. So I should get, if I get this measurement correct and this correct, then I should have this piece in the right place, at least up here. So I'm going to set my trim gauge to 62.6 and make sure I've got it in the right position laterally. And then I need to do the cross diagonal, the 62.5 back to the other fender mount, which is really probably not in the right place either because this is kicked out just a little. You see that? I still need to straighten this fender up, but up here at the door and the pillar at the top, that's in the right position. So right in here it's probably okay. It just got kicked out down here. So I think this point right here is probably good enough. I'll check a couple other things to make sure I can trust that, but what I'll probably have to do is get that fender straightened up to where I know it's right, which would involve putting the hood back on and all that, but I think I can move, since I know it's really close there, I can just move this in, straighten the fender up, and then I can trust that point again and measure over from here to there, which will be 62.5. Yeah. So I'm going to get that checked out, and I'll move this around until I get that right and clamp it back down. It's probably pretty close right now, being that I've got these two steps here that locate it. Got those in the same place that they were, so this is probably right. But I need to get this down here pushed in and make sure I get diagonal measurements from, see, I think this is 4-door. Yeah, this is 4-door right here. They mix the 4-door and 2-door together, which is kind of confusing at times. And it runs on different sheets. But anyway, I can get this point from the fender mount to here and here correct. And then I should have it right. Alright, I think right now I'm pretty close, but I was looking at measurements I was getting, and the fender mounting tab that's right in here on the other piece was just a little bit too far in this way. I need to come out about 1/8 of an inch, if that far. So I've been pushing on this. I'm taking it real easy. I'm using this engine mount. I'm trying to not overstretch it here, but this is coming right on out. So I'm just taking this, going against the side of the mount, and I'm pushing out right down in here at that 90-degree bend and pushing this piece out. I got it out pretty far, but I still had the piece in the side here, so I was touching it, so I had to take it back out. Now I'm going to push a little further out. And I was sitting here looking, I was thinking maybe some of this got pushed in, and it really did not up until this point, but you can see right there, the paint's wrinkled. So this part right here got pushed in a little bit, because back when I first started tearing the car down, I could tell that this has gotten rolled in from the bottom. So this actually under here went in a little bit and buckled. This crease here was already there, or that bend in that member. It's just like that on the other side, right down in there. It's really hard to see, but there's this very similar step in it. So it just wrinkled the paint right there, and also underneath. I don't know whether you can even see this, but right along this edge, the paint's wrinkled as well. You see a little bit of where it's come off, right in there. So what I'm going to do is put some more outward pressure on it. Get this pushed out, and reach down in here with a block of wood and just tap that down a little bit. That'll push this part out. And then I should have everything where I need it to be. I've actually pushed in there some to get this rail out, and I came up here at this joint with the same tool here, the same ram, and pushed this out, and that's rolled this piece out like this. So I think I've got this part right here back out to where it's supposed to be. I'm going to refit or push more of this out and refit that piece until I get this section right here out flush with the new piece right along this inside edge. I can't push it with it in there, or I'll end up bending the piece I'm trying to match it to, and I don't want to do that because I don't have it too far out. That's really all I've got left to do. And then once I get it in there, I know everything's going to fit, I'll take it, or mark it, and then take it back out and prep it to weld. Alright, I've got everything just about in place. I've got the tram gauge set over here. Got it set to the diagonal measurement that goes across from the other side's fender mount at the rear over here to this mount. And I'm falling right in the hole right now. Other side, I actually haven't made any adjustments to the other side as far as this mount here and that bolt head over there, but I'm hitting right on the middle of that bolt over there. I can take it out and just drop it in, but I'm pretty darn close, just looking at the middle of the bolt head, so I think I'm good. Try this one more time. Have to be really careful not to move the pointers. I can push on this bar and flex these pointers, but I'm falling right down in that hole. It's a little bit short, but I can bend that tab out just a little bit to match it to that fender, but I think for now I'm okay. What I'm going to do now is most likely just put the hood back on it, so I can make sure I've got that fender in where it needs to be to the hood. Get that gap right. Then I can shut the hood down and make sure I can get this gap right here. I'm not going to weld anything until I know I can get everything to fit. I think every clamp I've got on it's going to be out of the way of the fender. There's going to be a mount. There's a fender mount that goes right in here. And I'm going to have to go find it. I got it in a box somewhere. And I'll mount the fender to that bracket. This right here is the Resonator Box. It mounts to that spot and then comes down into here. So what I'm going to do is I may pull a couple clamps off. These in here are just holding the inner piece onto this. This piece won't move if I take these off. So what I'm going to do is check the fitment of the fender and also make sure I can bolt in the resonator right there and right here. and that'll make sure that everything's in place, because that resonator's got a bolt to this and the fender, and that's really about it that goes in down here at least. But I got to make sure that will fit also. Alright, now that my measurement across here diagonally is square and correct, went ahead and put the hood back on it. I've also got this fender. Get this fender to fit. It just had to go in slightly. Put the hood right back in the same place it was with the tape there. I'm going to leave it there just in case I have to move it for some reason. I'll know where it was. Got that back on. That hinge, it's all tight. I need to snug those bolts down. They're fairly snug now. I need to go ahead and torque them. Now I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to hang this fender up here. Make sure I can get it fit to the hood and make sure all the bolt holes line up. And once I know that it's going to fit to the hood and mount to the car right, I'll take it back off and start. I may do this inside the fender if I can while it's on there. That way it'll be faster. But I think the fender is going to be further in than the door. So my spreader that I'm going to use on this probably have to be open like this with the fender off. But I'll get in here with a block of wood or whatever to protect the A-pillar, and I'll push all this out with the spreader and get the contour back right, matched to the new fender. That way when I get the door off, I can skin it and know that the frame is straight. Right now I'm going to go ahead and double check my measurements. I've got a measurement from this hole where the fender mounts up here to, I think it's the fender mounting bracket hole here. And that was good last time I checked it, but I've remounted this since. I'm going to double check that. This is the fender bracket itself, and somehow it really didn't get damaged. Don't know how that happened. But I did have to bend this tab over a little bit to get it to fit in the hole, but that was the only damage to that. I've got the resonator mounted. I actually paid about $25 more for this than I would have at Honda to get this thing new. I couldn't find a used one, and it was back ordered on from Honda for who knows how long. They didn't have an ETA on it, so I went ahead and ordered that from somebody on eBay that had one. It's bolted in perfectly. It's tightened down. This is in. I just need to check from here down to there, and I've also got another measurement from that hole up to the front edge of this hole, and that was right also, because this hasn't moved anyway, so it should be right. But I'm going to get that set up on the tram gauge, and I'll show you that. I'm going to recheck from down there at the fender mounting hole up here to this large hole right there in the rail. And that one's supposed to be from down here up to here, which is number 2 for the USA produced model, and that's 32.6 inches. And then I'll go from this hole over here to the fender mounting hole. That's D1, which up here is the front fender stay mounting hole. So I'll go from the bottom down here up to that hole. That's number 1, and that is 40.04, so basically 40 inches. So I've got 32.6 to here, and you can see in this picture it's the front of the hole. And I know that because I know this is supposed to be right, and I went to the center and it was a little bit shorter than that, so I measured over here and it was perfect, since none of this is moved on this car. So I'll check that one up to the front edge of that hole, and these other holes are small enough you can basically just measure from center to center and be close enough. So 32.6 and 40. Alright, I'm checking the 34.6 first. This is how I lay it out. I start on the 1, then I go 1 extra inch over here. Once I get those pointers in the right place on the tape measure, just bring it over here and check it. So I'm going to set the 34.6, check it. I'll show you that one, then I'll do the same thing for the 40 inch and show you checking that. Alright, I think I misspoke. It's 32.6 inches. That's what I've got it set to. Might be hard to see this, but we're going to the bottom hole with the fender mounts. And that's going up to right to the front edge of that large hole. That's just about perfect there. I'm going to set it on 40 inches. I'll check the fender mounting hole. Alright, I'm set on 40 inches. Hopefully you can see this. I go down from the fender mounting hole. This hole right here should drop right in. see this. Drops right in that hole perfectly. That's where this bracket was. I took it back out. That's where that was. So I know the fender ought to bolt right into this. When I get it on there, I'm probably going to have to bend this slightly because I'm sure it took a little bit of a hit right here on this end especially. See, it's kind of bowed. But at least I know that I've got this piece in the right place. I'm going to go hang the fender now. Alright, the fender went on pretty well. The door is actually not as bad as I thought. And come out right here with the frame and knock that in and just slowly work it back. And what I can do to just fine tune it later is when I get the skin cut off, I can lay the new skin on it and clamp it in place. Then I can slowly match the contour of the door edge there to the skin. As long as it matches the skin, then it should match the fender. That'll get the door frame in the right place. I've got the hood coming down. I've got it good over here. It's not quite touching the bumper over here yet. See it moving. Over here it's not close to the bumper either. I think what happened when the hood got hit here, it did lift it up a little on this hinge because that's a little bit high there. So I think what happened was that this striker in here got pulled down a little bit because the hood got pulled away from it and it stayed where the latch is. So I'm going to knock the striker up into the hood just a little. That'll pull the hood all the way down tight and hopefully get it down at least close to the fender here. I went ahead and knocked this edge of the hood up to get it close, get the contour back close to where it's going to be. And then I can just tweak all this to make it match the fender. I'm going to go ahead and knock that striker up now. I'll be back when I get done with all that. Alright, I've got the fender and the hood fit pretty well. I knocked up the corner of the hood there that got rolled under. I'm just going through with the little PDR pick here. I'm just going to tap the ridge out of that hood as much as I can get it out. Still going to have to do some body work, but it'll be very minimal. I'll show you what I got now. That's where it was rolled. Just got a little bit of a ridge left from where it folded around the hood frame. I'll be able to probably hit that with a grinder, just thin it out. Gap looks pretty good. Fender fits pretty well. Back this thing off. Alright, now we're going to be okay with that. That bolt, I was able to twist the bracket around and get everything lined right up. Didn't take much. Other side's pretty good too, so I think I'm going to leave it right there. I need to focus on getting that rail welded in now that I know it's okay. I may try a headlight or something just to make sure everything's good there. But I think that as far as the structure goes,